Tonight we will examine concepts that may challenge your perception of the world around you. Strange creatures, chilling tales, and the occasional conspiracy. Here on our show, we will attempt to provide you with paranormal insight. I'd like to introduce you to the paranormal team called SCARI, S-C-A-R-I, which stands for Seekers of California for Ethereal Research and Investigation. With my best friend Henri, we sought to find out the answers to some lofty inquiries, such as, what happens after death? Can we communicate with the dead? Can we prove once and for all that there are ghosts and spirits and other sort of phantoms that are all around us? And could we document them on video, on audio, on both preferably? I was and still am the Mulder of the group, the one who wants to believe, the one who had paranormal experiences in the past. Henri, however, was the Egon of our team, the pure scientist. The one with a background in computer science and finance had the most logical mind on the planet. We started this venture in 2009. Our first search for the paranormal yielded results on the first night out, when we caught a strange EVP that, technically speaking, shouldn't be there. We have more about that case in a separate episode called Case 1. We were hooked by this intriguing new world we discovered, and we continued investigating. Over the years, Henri and I would encounter people with alarming cases, to say the least. Shadow people, poltergeist activity. We even caught a Bigfoot case one time. But the thing that surprised me most is that we had our own UFO case in our back pocket for years. The eyewitness was Henri himself. In 2007, before we had started SCARI, Henri, as he would later disclose to me around 2015, recounted that he saw, quite up close, in the pre-dawn hours, a UFO. As was the case with many of our stories between one another, this story happened in the car on the drive either to or from a case some distance from where we lived. And that's when he told me about the UFO he would later call the Twilight Arrow. In the pre-dawn hours of August 2007, in the Latitude community on Communication Hill in San Jose, California, Henri was walking out to his car across the street from his house. Now, typically he parks in front of his house or in his garage, but he had just moved into this facility, couldn't find a place in front of his house, so he parked across the street. A strange glimmer caught the corner of his eye. As he turned to look, there he saw a more or less triangular craft. To borrow a visual, if you're a fan of Stargate, you may know of the ship classification known as an Al-Kesh, a bomber type. Basically, take the pyramidal Al-Kesh, give it a very smooth skin all the way around, and you're pretty close. It's the same basic shape as Henri would describe it, except for the front, where the nose cone should be. It split and had two forward-facing canards, similar to a speeder bike from Star Wars. And the craft itself was roughly the size of a Harrier jet, so approximately 25 feet long. The craft was silver metallic except for its bottom, which had a unique glow to it in the hue of aquamarine as it hovered there. It sat there for a short while, hovering over the grassy hills next to his home. About 5 seconds into this encounter, it shifted its angle slightly and shot across the valley to a point known as Mount Umunhum. Now, From where Henri lived at the time, Communication Hill, to Mount Umunhum across the South Valley of San Jose is 9 miles as the crow flies, or as the UFO cruises, I suppose. By Henri's recounting, this vessel covered 9 miles in 1 second, perhaps less, where it disappeared over the horizon. Of all the things that popped into his head, Henri said, and I'll never forget this, I really want one of those. He was just in awe of this craft. He thought it looked nice, had a good shape to it, and its maneuverabilities alone would make traffic a breeze. But aside from that, it didn't affect him the way I expected a UFO to affect someone, especially when they see it up close like that. He was maybe 100 to 200 yards away from this thing, and about eye level with it. Instead, Henri, my good friend, really wanted one of those for himself. Good old Henri. Now, again, I will remind our listeners that this happened in 2015, about 11 years after we formed the paranormal group. Only Henri could bury a lead like that. Oh, by the way, did I ever tell you about the UFO I saw? Oh, man. He is missed. Of my friend, I will say this. This world is a little darker without him in it. We lost Henri in 2020. Not from COVID, but of a rather severe infection. Henri was an undiagnosed diabetic, and stepping on a nail or some foreign body punctured the bottom of his foot. He thought nothing of it until it became too painful for him to bear after weeks and weeks. Henri initially only lost his foot, then his leg, and soon after that, parts of his torso. Henri was later sent home after showing marketable improvement. He was self-reliant, but tragedy struck. His mother died. He collapsed into a depression and failed to take care of himself. And on December 29th, I lost one of the best friends I ever had. Forgive my breakdown. It's still very palpable, especially around this time of the year, even 2 years after his death. As of this recording, it's just after New Year's, 2023. I am fortunate, however, I still have a very good partner in the woman you know as JJ Rose 777. She and I continue to do cases together and always dedicate our successes to Henri. If you suspect you may have diabetes, please see a doctor immediately. It's nothing to laugh at. My friend Henri let it go because he didn't know what it was. As smart and brilliant and genius level intellect as he had, he couldn't look inward all that well. So I ask you to keep an eye on your own health, keep an eye on the health of those around you, loved ones, and so forth. And we will close this episode on a somewhat somber note, and I do apologize for that. However, I will be back with more stories from the Files of Scary. And we'll also have some more guests coming on the show later on, including JJ Rose 777 herself, and a few other fun guests lined up for the future. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. On Spotify, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast paranormal.insight@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under paranormal.insight.podcast